I'm Sarah Van Gelder, and I'm one of the co-founders and the editor-in-chief of Yes Magazine. And I'm thrilled to be here in San Francisco at the Possibl conference, Possibl for Us. We at Yes are all about possibilities. We believe there's a lot that's going wrong in our world right now and that we can do something about it. We're concerned about things like climate change and inequality and the amount of money that's distorting politics and, you know, the kinds of things that make you depressed when you listen to the news. And sometimes even when you listen to Project Censored. And we're concerned about those things too, and we believe that people are doing something about that. They're not just going about fixing problems, but really thinking about transforming our whole society. So at Yes Magazine, we talk about and we write about and we report on how people are going about making those kinds of shifts. We were founded in 1996 in the basement of a rental house. We were taking over the subscriptions from another magazine that collapsed. We held on by our fingernails for a number of months and years until gradually we were able to build up enough support that we were able to actually move out of the basement into a real office. During those early years, we used to have to decide, you know, will we pay our print bill or will we pay our salaries? So that was the kind of way that we got started. But the thing that I'm really happy about is during all that time we were able to stay independent. We've never accepted any advertisements. We don't take any corporate money or any government money. We're supported by our readers. At this point we have something like 5,000 people who give us some kind of size donation. Some give us $5 a month, some add $3 when they buy something on the website, all the way up to people who write very large checks. And that's what's enabled us to stay independent, is having that large, diverse form of support. We also, of course, sell magazines. As Mickey mentioned, we sell subscriptions to Yes Magazine. Here's our current issue. It's when we come to events like this, we sell for $10 a year. So that's what Mickey has on offer at the Project Censored table. So what are we about? You know, what you've heard about so far is about the corporate media and about the corporate domination of our society. And we're very concerned about those things too. But we take it from a somewhat different angle. We sort of take as a given that there are these awesome other reporters telling you how bad it is. And we want to talk about what are we going to do about it. Because if all we hear about is how bad it is, it gets disempowering after a while, right? I mean, I wake up some mornings, listen to the news, and I just want to, you know, just end it all. But there are things people are doing. And the things that people are doing have the potential to build a better world. And they need to be paid attention to too. Because if we find out that other people are solving the problems that we are encountering or that we're concerned about, we have a much better shot at getting something done about it. So, you know, that doesn't mean there's anything inevitable. We are not about being Pollyannish. We're not about sort of easy answers about, you know, if we just loved each other a little better, it would all be okay. We actually think there's some really fundamental shifts that need to happen. But that we as a society are the only ones that are going to do it. It's not going to come from the top down. There's no big leaders out there who are going to tell us what to do. It's going to come from ordinary people like ourselves. And the only way we're going to learn from one another is by actually telling our stories and communicating them. And so that's what we do in Yes Magazine. Is we're really interested in reporting on all of us who are making those kinds of shifts. So I want to talk a little bit about the kind of journalism we do. Sometimes it's called solutions journalism. And I like that name okay, although sometimes I don't. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And the reason I don't is because sometimes it seems a little facile. And I'll give you an example. I was just reading an article about the drought situation in California. Some people's wells went dry. And so this lovely woman whose own well went dry went about buying huge cases of bottled water and giving it away to her neighbors. Okay? So on the one hand, I love the story because this woman, from the concern of her heart, was going out and doing something really wonderful in terms of sharing this very much needed resources and caring about her community and building her community. And I frankly think community is where a lot of our solutions come from. But really, bottled water? You know, there needs to be some understanding about putting water in plastic and selling it. And is that really the kind of world that we want? There's huge issues to the environment with going into some pristine watersheds, draining down their water and selling it in plastic. And it's also ultimately unsustainable in many ways, including this woman eventually, of course, burned out because she couldn't do this. So what we try to do is look at the deeper level. Okay, so what is our water situation? How did this drought come about? Let's understand climate change. Let's understand the uphill, the upstream, the causes of climate change, and what can we do about that? And there are lots of things we can do about that, right? I mean, I think there's somebody here who's working on climate solutions. Yeah?
Therefore, climate solutions.
So there's lots of things we can do about that. Switching to renewables, reducing our demand on the environment so we're not using up so much of the world's resources. You know, having a more simple life. Using things twice, not once. Changing our whole worldview so that instead of thinking about materialism and about how much stuff we have as where we get our status, thinking about how much we give away as where we get our status. I happen to have the honor of living on a Native American reservation in Washington State, the land of the Suquamish people, and there the people get their status or the respect by how much they give away, not by how much they have. If they accumulate a lot of stuff, everybody's going like, what's wrong with this person? You know, why aren't they sharing? So there's different ways that we can move upstream to understand the causes of these kinds of questions. Of course, there's lots more you could say about water, getting back to that water story. You could talk about how water is a commons, belongs to all of us. But when it gets appropriated, when it gets privatized, and people start using it for inappropriate things like water-hungry crops like alfalfa in a desert kind of environment, that doesn't make any sense. Or when people use water to transport pollution, it doesn't make any sense. So we need to start thinking about these commons that belong to all of us and take back our democratic right to make choices about how these kinds of commons are used. So those are the kinds of stories that we do in Yes Magazine. When we did an issue on water, we looked exactly at those questions. How do we keep it from being inappropriately privatized and enclosed and used for some people's benefit while other people are excluded? And how do we make sure it stays as the pristine, precious resource it is? Because there is nothing out there more valuable to life than water. So those are the kinds of things I mean when I talk about moving upstream and really understanding solutions. Because solutions are not just this little quick fix. Oh, here's water shortage, bottled water. Or here's hunger, soup kitchen. Even though soup kitchens are wonderful things, and again, bring out the altruism that we have, we need to understand better how we get to a situation where there's hunger, how we end up with so much inequality, and what we can do to take back our economy. So Yes Magazine does a lot on democratizing our economy, and cooperative economy, and how everyone can own a part of their workplace. One of our favorite kinds of stories is about the stories, some here in the Bay Area, some in New York, low-income women who form their own home health care cooperative, so that instead of just being at the whim of whatever corporation is paying whatever tiny amount to provide this much-needed service, they can own their own company, and they can share the profits, and they can have dignity and know that they can decide the fate of this enterprise that they're a part of. Those are the kinds of stories we do at Yes Magazine. Our newest issue is called Make It Right. We decided to do it after Ferguson. We worked on it in collaboration with Vanya Dawkins, who's here in Oakland, California, working on restorative justice. And the question for this issue was, you know, if the election of Barack Obama did not inaugurate a post-racial society, which of course it did not, what can we do about racism? How can we go deeply enough into our nation's core founding principles, which included slavery, really? How can we go deeply enough into that and into the centuries of racial exclusion and exploitation and violence? How can we go deeply enough into understanding that to change it? That's the question that we ask. Now, when we do issues on anything, we don't think we have all the answers. What we do is we look for the people who we think have the best answers. We report on them, and we think of this as one iteration that we hope will continue to get improved on. And I hope that this issue as well will continue to be improved on. But we feel like we've got to at least do the best we can to find the people who have a good start on those kinds of answers. So that's what we do. Tomorrow I'll be talking more about the book Sustainable Happiness, and welcome you to come to the Project Sensory table to pick up copies of that issue.